Hey, welcome to all our yesterdays. Today we have a really good show. You guys are going to really enjoy this. Today, my guest co-host is none other than Doug Engler, who saved my butt and decided to give me a hand today. So thank you, Doug.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, RW, for inviting me onto the show tonight. A little about myself. I do a podcast called Animazing Radio, or an anime and pop culture talk show that typically airs Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch channels. And it's an honor to be here to hang out with you. We've had you as a guest on in the past, and it's neat to be in the co-host seat.
Oh, nice. And our guest is none other than Darrell Rooney.
I should say.
Now, I've known you for probably 10 years,
Yeah.
and we met through this little film that no one even remembers called Tron.
Yeah.
So we got a lot to talk about today. So let's get into it. So how did this career begin for you? And I know you're now in LA, but you grew up in Canada.
Yeah, I grew up
So
in
how did you get from Canada to LA and get this whole thing going?
strictly by a miracle. Strictly a miracle. You know, I grew up in a world where my parents didn't vacation anywhere. They only ever went and saw their family. So the idea of going to Florida for a holiday wasn't on the radar. The idea of going to a concert that a performer would do, not on the radar. But that was the world that I wanted to live in. And you know, I grew up loving Disney animation, Disney films, and I could draw really well, and I had no other perceptible skill. So I thought I should work at Disney. That's what I want to do in my life. And I decided that I wanted to live in Los Angeles because I hate the cold. And you know, any place that has palm trees, interesting to me. So when I was in high school, I learned about a college called Sheridan College of Applied Arts and Technology that had a 3-year classical animation training program. And I thought that'll get me to California. I'm gonna do it. So I applied, got in, and in my 3rd year, you know, I'm really just a flaky artist. I don't know how the world works. I just am a flaky artist in my heart. So in my 3rd year, I'm facing the practicality of it. How am I going to get from here to California? There are no plans. And a friend of mine who'd graduated the year before came back to visit and said, "Hey, I just started working for a studio, Lisberger Studios. They're in Boston, and they just got a contract to do a animated feature, Animal Olympics, and they're moving to Los Angeles. They're looking for animators." He said, "You should send your portfolio." And I thought, why don't we drive there and meet them in person? I talked another friend into doing it. We drove to Boston with probably 2 weeks later, interviewed with Steve Lisberger. He hired us on the spot. And I said, I need to go graduate first. And he said, "Go graduate, come back." So I July 4th weekend, Independence Day, I flew to Boston and moved to Los Angeles and started in the animation business.
Wow. Yeah. And the rest is, as they say, history.
History, yes. You know, the great thing about Sheridan College was that it was very practical. It taught you how to do the work. Didn't teach you to be an auteur, didn't teach you to be a director. It taught you how to sit down, and if someone gave you a job to do, you could do it. I could in between, I could animate it, I could do layouts, I could read exposure sheets, I could do exposure sheets, all of those things. So I could instantly sit down and in between someone's scene, and I knew what all the chicken scratches were.
Wow. So it's
Kudos to Sheridan College.
Yeah, so it's one of those where you're working on a project and they're like, "We need somebody to do this thing," and you're like, "Yeah, right here." So that makes you the man of many talents
It
that.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was really serendipitous that Steve Lisberger was suddenly in the need of a handful of people who knew what they were doing, that he wouldn't have to train. And there were 4 of us in total that went from Sheridan College directly to Lisberger's in Boston and then to Los Angeles.
A lot of people don't remember Animal Olympics, but I
Yeah.
believe it might be, I don't know if it's on Disney. I've seen it on something and I'm like, wow, there it is. It's like a long time ago, but it kind of did its thing when it first came out, and then it kind of just faded into obscurity, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it actually didn't get to do its thing because
Ah,
the idea was that it was going to play interstitially at the Olympics in 1980, but because of the whole Olympic boycott, that never happened. The feature that was planned, which was taking the Winter and the Summer Olympics, two TV specials, putting them together and making a feature, that evaporated. So all the revenue that that Steve Lisberger was going to make, none of it happened. So it threw his next project, Tron, into a crisis position.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's what happened. So then he had to go and find funding and go and pitch it to other studios. And luckily, Disney was the studio that said yes.
which is funny because Disney was known for like their animation, like Snow White and stuff, and they never did big Tron movies, or they had like the Love Bug movies and stuff, and some of the Kurt Russell movies, Dexter Riley films or whatever. And what's funny is I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, Disney was always considered kind of the low studio, and now they own everybody. So it's kind of funny how they went from we won't touch that to we just bought it all.
The sweetest revenge, as they say.
Yeah. So it's like,
at the time, Disney had a new young executive named Tom Wilhite, who was really looking to indoctrinate a new generation of Disney. And he did helm a film before Tron called The Black Hole, which was an attempt to move into the Star Wars world. And, it had whatever kind of success that it had. But he's the one who saw Tron and went, oh, that's the future. Yes.
Yeah, and as you may or may not know, I might have seen that movie like 500 times or something.
If not that one, the sequel. So.
But yeah, so I mean, you've worked with so many people. A few weeks back, we had Jerry Rees on, and we talked about the Brave Little Toaster.
I just want to point out that I'm dressing for Jerry Rees today. Jerry only wears black V-neck shirts.
Hey, Jerry, if you're watching, but so there's a lot of toaster fans out there. And when we had him on, somebody was actually going through YouTube, and they had just typed in Brave Little Toaster, and the feed for Jerry popped up, and they're like, oh my God, I was blah, 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 and they freaked out. So hopefully they're watching today. So maybe you can tell us your experience on Brave Little Toaster for those people who just hold that movie dear. And Doug's going, I'm right here. I love it.
That was my childhood. That was one of my favorite movies growing up.
That's great. That's great to know. Well, the first thing I have to say is that I'm actually mentioned in the movie, which is like one of my minor claims to fame. The TV show is talking, and there's a commercial for Rooney's Bargain Basement Emporium. And Jerry just did it as a little nod to me. I have no idea why, except that, we were good friends. So that gets to live on. So I should open up a bargain basement emporium. That's what I should do. It's taken me this long to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I guess I met Jerry initially. Well, I met him on Tron, and then he left to go up north and work with Brad Bird. Brad was back down here. I became friends with Brad, worked on a Spirit promotional film with him, went up north, met Jerry again, and this time with his wife, Rebecca. And then they came down here, and this part's hazy in my memory. We stayed in touch. Brave Little Toaster happened, and they asked me to work on it, storyboard on it. And of course I said yes, because who doesn't want to work in the sleaziest part of Hollywood? Day job.
And that was, like I said, that was part of my childhood. Absolutely loved that movie growing up. Some of the songs were catchy. Some of them I still remember. And you know it's a good, you know that a movie or a show is good when you can remember even small details. Like I remember Rooney's Crazy Emporium of Total Bargain Madness.
Yes. All the way. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
You know,
you
yeah.
very good friends with Roger Allers,
Yes. Yeah.
and now if again correct my memory because I hear things like I'm hearing something now that he came to you and said wanted you to direct the sequel to Lion King, or no, that's not how it happened.
No, I don't know where you're. It sounds good.
Yeah, it sounded great. Yeah.
Actually, maybe that is true. Tell me about it, and maybe I'll
So what happened was,
no. What
can't
happened?
believe what you read on the internet.
So what happened was I was working at Disney. It had different names over the years. Disney TV Animation, I guess, is when I started. It became Disney Toons. It just had multiple names, so I don't recall what iteration it was when this happened. So let's see. I came in to the studio to work on an animated short, and it was. Do you remember that TV show, The Real World?
Yes,
So
unfortunately.
it was supposed to be a parody of The Real World, and it was going to be with the Three Little Pigs.
Ah,
So I did that. I made huge changes on it. The executives loved the changes I made, and then I was going to do Lady and the Tramp 2, which is one of my all-time favorite Disney animated features, and so I felt like I could do that justice. They were having trouble with Lion King 2, where it just wasn't landing, and so they asked me to look at it, and I have no idea what the notes I gave, but they liked my notes so much they said, why don't you come work on it for a couple of months? And I said, I will. So I guess I did, and then every time I tried to leave it, it would sort of lose its way again, and it just sort of became apparent that I needed to stay on it full time, which I was offered, and I said I would, but only on one condition, because I was good friends with Roger Allers, that I just wanted that seal of approval. Yes, I'm comfortable with you as a longtime friend of mine that you will take this film and not screw it up, and because the sequels did not have a good reputation at feature animation. They thought that they sucked and they stunk and were, all bad things, even though they do sequels now.
right.
So I just wanted someone in the feature world on my side so that I could go behind the scenes and say, here's a story problem I'm having, or here's an issue, and get their input if I needed it. So I did go to Roger and talk to him about it, and he said, I think if anyone's going to do it, you should do it. So that's how it really happened.
I knew his name was in there somewhere. Go ahead, Doug.
It's neat to hear some of the behind the scenes stuff because as a fan of a lot of the work that you've done,
Yeah.
and especially like today's world, I'm more into the anime world than the comic world or movies and things of that nature. So that's where a lot of my focus has been as I've gotten older. But as a kid growing up for Brave Little Toaster, Aladdin, a lot of the stuff that you've worked on, we never thought about what went on behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
you don't realize just how important somebody like you is to the animation world, the writing world, the thing, that's that type of stuff. The voice actors, even today, the voice actors get so much credit when it comes to production of a cartoon, an anime, an animated movie, whatever the case may be. And people forget about people like yourself who are really some of the magic behind the scenes who get little to no notoriety. So I love the fact that you're able to come on to a show like this and, you know, say, hey, I was a part of this as well and get some notoriety for the hard work that you've put in.
Well, one of the things that I did that I get that is not known publicly, I don't think, because it's behind the scenes stuff. Beauty and the Beast. I was, because of Jerry Reese, I had work done Back to Neverland, and which was a short film for Disney, and the studio wanted Jerry to come in and rehelm Beauty and the Beast that was in script form but not working yet. And Jerry didn't want to do it. He wanted to go into live action, and so he offered my services. And for whatever reason, I guess because they believed in Jerry, they said yes. So I mean, it's crazy that I didn't even interview with them. I had worked there before on Tron, but I didn't interview with them for this job to come in and redevelop Beauty and the Beast. And I got to do it, and it just was so much fun to get to have an open playing field. You know, I went back to the original source. Okay, here's what exists. Here are the movies that exist. Here's the script that they've written. Why is it off track? This doesn't feel like a Disney movie. And one of the things that the script had was her name in the script was Beauty, and I just thought there's no way a character on screen can say, "Hey, Beauty, where's the water pail?" It doesn't ring true. And the source material is French, and I grew up in Canada. I know some French. Beauty is Belle. I'm gonna change her name. I'm gonna call her Belle. So that stuck. So
Wow.
in everyone's world, it's always been Belle, but it's because I did that. So I did it. That's my arrogant claim to fame. I'm Canadian. You're never supposed to take credit for things.
So two things. When we talked to Jerry, like I say, a few months back, I think it was in November or whatever. November. They're not even. I don't even know what we're in. It must have been not even in November yet. Oh my God. Yeah, I haven't slept in weeks. I forget when it was. It was a couple months back. But you guys are so very similar that a project is failing, and either you or Jerry get called in, and you guys are like, "This is what's wrong with your movie. This is why this is not working."
Yeah.
And it's an honor to know both of you, because you guys are so sought after to fix these issues. And I said to Jerry, and I'll ask you the same thing: why don't these people come to you before there's a problem and just have you do it from the beginning? Because you both come in and you go, "This is your problem, and this is what needs to be done to make this thing work, and this is what needs to be done to fix this thing." But if they had just called you in the beginning, they wouldn't have had to call you to fix their film. So it boggles my mind that both you and Jerry are able to come in and go, "Okay, this is what is what needs to happen," and they go, "Okay, yeah, you're in charge now." Like, that just to me is so cool. And you guys both should feel wicked honored that these people trust your experience and stuff with that. And then the other thing is, once you touch on that, tell people a little bit about the Finding Neverland thing, but go ahead and reiterate with that, how you guys are able to just take not crap, but something that's not quite working and like go and make it work.
Are you talking about Beauty and the Beast, or?
Well, just in general, because you've come into several things, and I know Jerry said the same thing. He's like, "I came into this thing, it was a mess, and I was the only one who could fix it." And then you've come into some things, and you're the only one who can fix it. So how, what is it you see, I guess, that these people who can't see it do? Is it just because, this is your passion, like you said, when I was growing up, this is all I wanted to do, or how is it you can see it differently, I guess?
I think it's because I watch movies a lot. I've always watched movies. I will watch the same movie over and over and over again. I'll buy the screenplay and read it. I remember I flew to Hawaii once, and I read the screenplay for Raiders of the Lost Ark on the flight, and it took me 5 hours. And by the time I got off the plane, I was so high, I was so exhilarated by the script that I didn't even feel like I was in Hawaii. All I could talk about was Raiders. Although that's kind of appropriate since it was shot in Hawaii.
Right.
So I love story construction. I love finding what the devices are in movies. a lot of times it's like you need a MacGuffin, a visual of an actual MacGuffin that the movie revolves around. One of the other films that I came in to fix was a sequel to Milan 2, and that one, it was suddenly really apparent to me what you need is an actual device that the characters acknowledge, that the story revolves around, and then the revelation of the device is your third act. And that's what I did for that. It was a really easy fix, but it affected the entire movie. So I think it's just understanding as much as you can about story development, the elements of storytelling. Take every story class that you can teach is a really good thing to do, because then you find out what you know. So I guess that's my answer to it. I am certainly passionate about it.
No,
Well-told story is amazing.
Yeah.
And it is neat to see that you're able to come in and take a general snapshot of what has happened and have a very good idea of how to make it better, to where the populace, most people are going to enjoy it. No matter what you do, you're going to have the naysayers, and there are people going to be like, well, it could have been this or that, especially in this day and age. But you have a talent for figuring out the general population is going to enjoy it this way.
Yeah.
And I almost look at that as a gift, because not everybody can do that. And really thank you for the work that you've done.
Oh, well, thank you. The other side of it is not just the storytelling, the craft of it, but it's also looking for the heart of a story. What's the emotional through line that you want an audience to connect with? And I have to say that Jerry is just the master of that. And that was the great thing about working on Brave Little Toaster, was seeing this show that should have been a train wreck because of the short schedule that it was on, being guided so deftly by Jerry. And because I knew him really well, I think all of our conversations were pretty short. So I can't say I had a lot of time speaking with him when I was working on the show, but I always knew exactly what he wanted. I'd show him what I've got. Whatever he told me, I knew exactly what he meant. And the thing that he was always going for was character, 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 and if not that, character. What are the relationships, and where is it taking you, so that you end up loving those characters and you care? And that was the great thing about that movie, was as we worked on it, we realized, oh my God, we care about these characters. They're real to us. So you just can't underestimate that kind of training. And, for all the training that I got, Sheridan College, when you're working, that's where your real training is. When you're working with other people and you see what they bring to a project, you better pay attention, because it's amazing. So Jerry has been a great teacher of mine.
Yeah, I love emotional movies. I don't like, these CGI movies are great and all, but like, I need a story. I need something that's going to hit me here. And, like It's a Wonderful Life. No matter how many times you see it, it's like, attaboy, Clarence. And you feel that emotion. You like, wow, that's, powerful stuff. So, I bash CGI a lot. I think CGI should be there to help the story, not tell the story. Like, I was watching the new Andor series on Disney, and there's a shot of somebody walking through this like huge building or whatever, and I'm like, is that building even there? Or are they in a studio walking next to a green screen, and all that stuff is computer made? And if it is, wow, that looks completely real or whatever. And I know back in the matte painting days, they would cut out, this little bit, and that's where the actor would be, and the rest would be something that, Ellen Shaw or whoever would draw, and it would like match up, and it would be like this incredible thing, but none of it was real. Or they film the miniatures and leave a space, and they put the actor and they put the miniature behind it, and it looks like they're there. But like, when what's that?
Oh, that's movie magic.
Yeah. So now I can't tell like I like the CGI that I can't tell is CGI. So like somebody's walking through something and none of that's real. The spaceship's flying around, the building they're in, nothing is real. You know, they're in a studio with a green screen behind them and that's it. And all that other stuff they put in. That's the CGI I like. I don't like the CGI where like a car rolls over 117 times and a guy gets out and goes, "Hey, I need a ride," and jumps on the back of a motorcycle and speeds up. You can't roll a car 167 times and get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me is I don't that CGI. But I just think I don't think we've lost the ability, but I think we now don't rely on good stories and good emotion. We try to build something around an explosion or a special effect, and I think we've lost a lot. So Pinata Time said howdy, and he said, "So you worked on Brave Little Toaster? Do tell." And this is the guy, Pinata Time, who when Jerry was on was searching YouTube and saw Brave Little Toaster. So he's joining us today because he's a huge Brave Little Toaster fan. So before we go back to Brave Little Toaster, tell us just a quick little thing about Robin Williams and Walter Cronkite.
Oh, see, I just get emotional just by having you mention that.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You know, it's because I hold Robin Williams in such high esteem. We were at the Raleigh studios where they shot all the footage with him, and after they shot all the stuff they needed, then he met with animators at the studio. I mean, at the Raleigh studio, and looked at the artwork they were doing, some animation, and he was just 100% focused, invested, and like a child. He was completely open and accessible, and his reactions were, I don't want to say childlike, but they were as honest and sincere as a child. There was no adult pretense with him. And you know, and we stood beside him, and he just was just so present. He just was so remarkable. He's everything that you've ever heard good about him. It's all true. And then I also was sort of watching at the same time that, you know, here's this guy who's this huge talent, who's having this huge career that only, you know, continued to rise. And I was also watching his entourage at the same time. And his entourage were all like dressed in dark clothes, and they were dark, and had gray skin, and they were all smoking cigarettes and just kind of furtive and creepy. And I just thought, these two things don't connect. What is going on here? And over the hours that transpired when all of this was happening, I was just thinking about it, and it suddenly dawned on me that when Robin stopped being Robin and he can just let it go, these are the people that will not have an issue. They won't care how dark he got, how sullen, how depressed he got, because they're already there. And I just felt like they were a safe place for him to stop being Robin Williams.
Wow.
So, and Jerry and I talked it a lot. We've talked about it a lot over the years, particularly when Robin passed away. So
Yeah.
it just showed me that there was another side to Robin that wasn't publicly known.
I got hit in the heart twice in my life. Once was August 16th, 1977, when Elvis Presley died, and the second one was the day Robin Williams died. I was blessed to meet him in 1983.
Very nice.
I was 17, 18 years old. He was filming a movie called The Survivors with Walter Matthau and Jerry Reed in Vermont. I had a big brother at the time. And my big brother was the director of the Washington County Youth Service Bureau in Montpelier, Vermont. And Robin was going to be doing a benefit concert to raise money for the St. Johnsbury Youth Service Bureau while he was up filming this movie. So my big brother took me to the set, and I was told to wait like 20, 25 feet away. My big brother went in and talked to the director, whose name I forget right now. And they're talking, and I can see him talking. And then probably equal distance away from me to them, behind them, was this cabin that Robin Williams was filming in. So he comes out of the cabin and he's walking towards me. And I mean, you know, like this 1983, he's fresh off Mork and Mindy. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Robin Williams, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, that's him. Like, here he is. So he comes over to the director and he's trying to figure out what they're talking about. And they look at me a couple times and I'm like, you know, grinning from ear to ear, trying to contain my excitement. So finally, Robin points to me and he motions for me to head towards him. So I walk about 7-8 feet. He has an Uzi or some kind of semi-automatic pistol thing on his shoulder. He pulls it off and he cocks it, points it at me. He goes, "One more move and you're dead. This is a closed set." And I go, "I thought you said come here." And I start backing up and he goes, "I'm kidding. I'm Robin Williams." And that's how I met Robin Williams. Like, it was just, I'm like, oh my God, Robin Williams just pointed an Uzi at me. And so he signed a couple posters and a record album. I've lost both posters in a leaky roof, so they're gone. But I have this memory of this is Robin Williams. Like, I won't, you know, I wrote it in my book that I wrote, and it just, you know, the day that, like I say, the day Elvis and the day Robin Williams died, a piece of me died, because those were two people who I looked up to, who gave me inspiration. And like in 1986, when I decided that acting and entertainment was what I wanted to do, I didn't really, I mean, I don't mind my name, Randy, but I was doing this variety show and I was like, how are they going to introduce me? Ladies and gentlemen, Randy Martin. Just didn't seem cool. And then I'm like, wait, my initials are RW, which is Robin Williams. That's so cool. So I started going by RW Martin, kind of to honor him in 86, and just kind of been going by RW ever since. Kind of like, that's my way of saying, Robin, thank you, or whatever. So yeah, but
Nice story. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he was brilliant. You know, that he could go into a room or do a stand-up comedy with no material and just ask the audience, "Hey, I need a couple subjects," and people would be like, "Math," and they'd be like, "Irrigation," or whatever, and he'd be like, "Whoa," and then he'd go off for 2 hours on those things that, like, his mind just could create so many things on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he was a gentle soul with this mind that never turned off.
Yeah.
Spun and spun and spun so quickly that it just, you know, came out of him nonstop. And sometimes some of the things he would say with his associative humor wasn't necessarily funny, but his delivery was so, so outrageous that you were laughing. And then, oh, that's not that funny. Delivery, he just was a genius.
He was a true entertainer through and through.
Absolutely. I wish that he had found more peace in his personal life. He certainly deserved it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Hey, can I tell you guys my best celebrity story? Dream
you
come
can tell us anything you want. You're the guest.
So I love old Hollywood. I love old Hollywood history. My favorite male movie star was always Gene Kelly. Oh, if I could just meet Gene Kelly. So in the mid-1990s, I'm at Turner Feature Animation, and I'm working on an animated feature, Cats Don't Dance. And I have the ear of the executive producer at the time. And so we needed a choreographer consultant for the film, and they were going to get Tommy Tune. And right around that time period, I saw some kind of thing in I don't know, the Hollywood Reporter or something, that Madonna had hired Gene Kelly to help her with a show called the Girly Tour. And I thought, you can hire Gene Kelly? What if we hire Gene Kelly and I get to meet him? The wheels are turning. How can I'm going to go talk to the executive producer and see if I can turn this into something. So I did, and he loved the idea. So Tommy Tune is out, Gene Kelly is in. We've got him, and he's going to come and work on the movie with us. So I went, oh my God! Not only am I going to meet him, I'm going to work with him. And so he came in a couple of times, and he was everything that I thought he would be and more. He was so smart. He was so current. He was utterly charming. He was well educated. He just was so much more than I thought he was going to be. And I had these smarts enough to sit beside his wife and talk to his wife. So then when I did talk to them in the future, they had a context. Oh yes, I talked to Darrell. I know who Darrell is. So while when I see his widow Patricia, she's like, "Oh, Darrell, yes, we know you." So and of course I just happened to have a poster with me for An American in Paris.
Wow.
So of course I'll sign it.
And I mean, we got to get back to Toaster at some point, but
Yes.
You've met a lot of people because of your career, and I know you've been very, very blessed. That looks like Sean Connery. So how did you meet him?
Oh, Sean, I did not meet Sean. That was just I like the picture and I'm going to buy it. But I did meet Ginger Rogers. Here's a movie that I just finished working on called Leo. It's a Netflix movie with, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? He'll hate that I've forgotten his name. Anyway, I can't tell you anything about the movie except it's going to be great and it's going to be heartfelt. And it is, come on, Darrell. He was on Saturday Night Live. It's not like I don't know his name. I'm just blanking.
I was at a con yesterday on the phone with my girlfriend, and a friend of mine walks by, and I go, honk, 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 honk. I go, hold on, I'll be right back. I jump out of my car. I go, hey, how you been? I forgot your name. And then his name was Mark Osman. But like, same thing happened to me yesterday. I'm like, I know you, but why can I not think of your name? I've known you forever. What is your name? Like, it just sometimes it happens.
Adam Sandler. I apologize for.
Oh wow, nice! You get to work with Adam Sandler.
Wow.
Actually, I worked on all the Hotel Transylvania movies, which Adam produced.
Wow. What's funny is I've been trying to like hook up with him to be in one of his productions because everybody's like, dude, you'd be perfect with Adam or whatever. And when I lived in New Hampshire, I had a doctor's appointment somewhere, but I was early because I'm early for everything. So I'm like, I'll just walk around Manchester, New Hampshire and see what I can see. And there's this building and there's a plaque on it that says Happy Madison. And I'm like, what? So I go in and it's his brother is like a lawyer or something. And it was actually his thing. And I go, is this really Happy Madison? And then like, yeah. And I go, oh my God, I want to be in an Adam Sandler movie or whatever. But I'm like, how do I get Adam's autograph? And the lady went to some drawer and I guess Adam had pre-signed just some, so they gave me an autograph or whatever. But it's like, unfortunately, people like Adam Sandler or Ryan Reynolds or whoever, you know, I might hit it off with Adam Sandler and he'd be like, oh my God, dude, you'd be perfect for this thing. But to try to get in touch with someone of Adam Sandler's caliber or Ryan Reynolds, just it doesn't happen unless you're getting milk in the same aisle and they're like, oh my God, Adam Sandler or whatever. But that's awesome that you're working on that because he's done like his last 6 movies or whatever were Netflix or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is kind of a departure for him. Friends of mine who worked at Sony who came up with this idea, I'm going to say 3 years ago now, and sold it to Netflix with Adam as the star. And it's just this really funny, smart, heartfelt movie, animated feature. It's family entertainment as opposed to adolescent entertainment. Do you understand the fine line that I'm?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cutting edge funny. It's fun, but you can take your kids to it. Your kids can go see it on their own, and it tested this past January and went through the roof. Which Adam said, "I've never had that happen before." So thank you. So I do really well.
That's awesome. Now, are you? Because I follow your posts and stuff, and you're like, here I am at Netflix. So now, are you actually got a contract with Netflix for a certain amount of thing, or you just when like somebody needs something like at Sony or Disney or wherever, they're like, and you go, hey, I can do it, and then you get hired and you go over there and you're freelance and you're doing that, or are you exclusive to Netflix for a while now, or what's going on with that?
I'm a free agent. So
Gotcha.
I went to Netflix because my friends had this movie and they wanted me to be on it, and I love working with them. You know, the best thing you can do is when you get to work with your friends, because then you're really just playing.
Right.
So Netflix also sort of went through a hard reawakening this last year. So Netflix is, not making 24 features and 57 animated TV shows and this and that. They've had to scale down. So I'm not at Netflix now. I finished on Leo, and I'm just taking a break right now.
Nice.
A well-deserved. I've been working since before the pandemic and the lockdown, and when I finished Leo, I went, you know what? I'm just tired. I need to take a break.
And that's a question that I've posed to a lot of the guests I've had on my show, because we bring on a lot of voice actors from the anime world that work with some of the Sony companies like Funimation, Crunchyroll, High Dive, things of that nature. And their whole world changed from being able to record in a studio to home recording. How did the pandemic affect your work?
Well, yeah, for the last couple of years, I've done storyboarding and story development. And the good thing about storyboarding is we all work on computers. We all have computers at home. So for the 10 years that I was at Sony, it was sort of an open door policy. Always be here for meetings, always have your work done, but go work at home if you want. Who cares? And so I was on Hotel Transylvania 4 when the lockdown was emerging, which was inconceivable. And Sony, I have to say, they were really ahead of the curve. They just said, this thing is going to happen, so do what you normally do, which is work at home. But we're going to do meetings through Zoom. We'll all figure it out. And that's how the world changed. So it didn't change that significantly for me in terms of my work environment. It changed in terms of having meetings. And there are virtues of Zoom. You get to see someone's face up close rather than across the room, but you lose that sort of spontaneous interaction that you have in person. So that way it's weird. And, a lot of that, I don't know when it will ever become like that again. There have to be small pods of development people that have to be together. Which I have to say, on Hotel T4 before the pandemic, this was the old school Disney. They took the story artists and the writers and the director, and we were locked in a room for 3 weeks together. We went home at night, but all we did was just try and make each other laugh for 3 weeks, and that was story development. And so we'd tell jokes and gross each other out, and then someone would spit out something about the story. What if this happens? What if this happens? And someone's there taking notes, and out of that process, which is very much an improv process, these nuggets of gold spill out of your mouth. And then when the key nugget of gold spits out of someone's mouth, everyone goes, that's it, that's our story. And that's what happened with Hotel Transylvania 4.
Wow.
It's cool. The way they used to do things, and I wish that all studios did, but it's something that the money people don't understand. You can't categorize that.
Now, a lot of people see, since I, have followed you and been friends with you for 10 years, a lot of people don't realize about your freaking mad costuming skills. And I'm being dead serious when I say this. Like, you made this costume from Wizard of Oz, one of the guys, and it's incredible. You did the Tin Man, you did the color by number guy. Like, where did you develop that costuming skill? Like, I wish there was a way I could post these photos in here right now, but I don't know how to do all that. But like, it's phenomenal.
It's just being an artist. And I went to work at Feature Animation 1988, 89, and they were, and I worked there before, and I just knew that they were super, super serious about Halloween costumes. They went all out, and I just knew, oh, this is my tribe. I had made a costume before that. I made a pan costume, which was basically just a furry, knee length pants, and it turned out really well. And I did it by I laid the material on the floor, I laid on top of it, I drew my body outline, and then I got up and I thought, okay, now this needs to bulge out, which means that needs to do that. So I would sort of make my own patterns based on my body shape, and then I would sew it by hand, which was really arduous, but it worked. So then when I was at Disney, it was like, oh, I've always wanted to be a Winky, one from The Wizard of Oz. If I could do that, that would be awesome. And so my first year at Disney, the animation costume contest, I went as a Winky, and it turned out really well. And
Yeah.
I won second place because Kathy Zielinski always won first place. That means that I actually won. So the costume that I wanted to make most of all, and I couldn't figure out how to do the face, so I wouldn't do it until I figured it out, was I wanted to be one of the winged monkeys from The Wizard of Oz. I seem to always go back to The Wizard of Oz. And a couple of years ago, well, it was during the lockdown, I finally found how to do the face, and I did it, and I couldn't go anywhere. So all I did was have a friend come over, and we took pictures in the backyard. But it was a killer costume, the best I ever made.
Now with the conventions coming back and stuff, do you feel that you'll be able to get out, possibly cosplay at an event, even just to go to have fun and not so much as a guest, just to cosplay and get reactions? Or
I don't know if I'm comfortable yet. I think for me, it's going to take another year or two. There are other types of things that I've done as group things, and I think we're all just collectively, no, we're another year before we're going to feel like we're not giving each other a virus.
Right.
and that's very understandable.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to not quickly touch on, but your love, and you're the premier person for this, I hear. No one has a wider collection or knows more about Jean Harlow. So,
well,
yeah, there might be a book right there.
Props. I do have this today. Let's see if I can move it from the This is an advanced copy of the reissue.
Oh, I gotta get me one.
Of Harlow in Hollywood. It's, I think, with the whole pandemic, everything is slowed down, and we're supposed to get the books in September. It didn't happen. Mid-October, we'll see. So one of the best things in the book is a full color, natural color photograph of Jean Harlow, which is one of the coups of. Let's see, can I do this? There we go. One of the coups of this book. She always exists in a black and white world, which I think is a real separation between her for the public and someone like Marilyn Monroe. So just to pull her into the world of color, I think is going to bring more fans.
Now, is that a real color photo from before? Or did somebody colorize it?
Nope,
Oh,
it's a
actual
real
color photo.
Yes, that's why when I say natural color, that's what I mean. It's the photographer's name was James Doolittle. He shot covers for movie magazines, and 1935, 1937, they were starting to become more prevalent, and there was a whole series of color photographs done with Jean Harlow, a couple of series. So there are other pictures out there that I have never seen. And hopefully someday they'll show up.
Now, when did this Jean Harlow, I'll say fascination or whatever, start for you, and why her, and what is it about her, and how did you become like the premier Jean Harlow authority?
It started in the early 70s when there was this whole nostalgia boom at the time, and all these John Cabal glamour photography books came out, and all of a sudden I saw all these incredible faces that were photographed like they were marble. They were so perfect. And Jean Harlow was the only one in all these photographs who was always smiling in them, or those are the ones that I reacted to strongly. that this was a girl who, when she was smiling, she was radiant, and this life force came off of her that was not like marble. She had genuine warmth. And so that just continued, and every layer of the onion that I have peeled back, finding out who she is, meeting her family, learning everything that I can possibly learn, everything that I learned, she's still that incredibly radiant person. And I don't know how it happened. It just sort of, she just became, I don't know, I sort of think she picked me. Said, here, I'm handing you this stuff because things have fallen in my lap. There was a painting that was done when she passed away that has been missing for 50 years. It fell in my lap in 2016, and I rescued it and brought it back to Hollywood, so it will be in Hollywood forever. Wow. So I feel like, there's an angel on my shoulder.
Well, just like you are the person to fix these projects, she's like, he's the only one who can do this. So yeah, I mean,
he delivers. Let's give it to him to do.
Exactly. But yeah, we got about 7 minutes because I know we said it would be about an hour or whatever. So if there's anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to touch on, or Doug has any more questions or whatever, let's get some important stuff out there that you might have to say, like upcoming projects besides Leo or anything else you're doing. But you said you're taking a break, so
I'm taking a break. I'm tired after, the lockdown was just very hard, and I think we all know that, but it takes time to sort of pull yourself out of it. When I was a teenager, we lived out in the country, and when I came home from school, I amused myself. So I would sit down in my room and draw all the time. So I didn't really interact with the rest of the world. And the lockdown sort of brought that back to me. So I'm sort of seeing, I survived it, but I feel like some of my habits of being isolated are still here, and I need to break free of them again.
And that's a joke that's happened in the anime world, is that, a lot of people say anime fans are very introverted. They don't go out, they don't socialize and stuff. So when the pandemic hit, they were like, it's just another day for us. We just stay home and watch cartoons, anime, comics, whatever. And it's life as usual. But, I'd ask the convention question because I'm the other side of the spectrum. Next weekend is going to be my 11th convention of the year.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we're going to be going to Syracuse, New York for Retro Game Con, which supposedly is the biggest or the largest gaming convention in the state of New York. I've never been there before. It's a little bit outside of our normal coverage with Animazing Radio, but I know that there's a lot of voice actors that are going to be there from the video game and anime world, a lot of crossover there. In your experience, how has the progression of animation changed throughout your career, and has it amazed you at how big it's become nowadays?
Well, I grew up in a generation, that we grew up on the golden age of Hollywood, which includes all of Walt Disney's films. And when we came of age, Disney films were in the dumps. Their animated features were not doing well. They were lame, and people in my generation are like, "Oh, if we could only have our chance." And that's Brad Bird. "Oh, if only I could get my chance, I could do it." And he did. I know Brad really well, and I knew him before, and I know him after. So he hasn't changed at all. But there were animation talents, so many of them, that were just looking for their chance to shine, and they did. And the second golden age of animation happened, and we all were completely cognizant of it when it happened. I think the beginning was difficult because everybody was working 35 hours a day, 75 days a week. It was just so much work. Nobody slept. People were sleeping at the studio, being fed at the studio, just to get movies like Beauty and the Beast out. And then they were received so incredibly well. And Disney was on a roll, and it was our generation that were creating them and being guided by Roy Disney Jr. and the other executives. I don't need to give their names because I only want to showcase Roy was the soul of the studio after Walt and his father were gone, and he was really the bridge, and he understood. So a second generation happened, and then it moved over into live action. CGI came along. So, the really big shift is, how computers have taken over. In some cases, they have taken the place of emotional storytelling, which doesn't work really well. It's not satisfying. When it's done as a composite where the two work off of each other, then it can be incredibly successful. The world of 2D is just so frustrating that the art of drawing, the art of animating, isn't really being taught in animation schools, not because they don't want to, but because students don't care. I just need to know how to move the character. I don't need to know how to draw it.
And that's a sad thing to hear, especially, growing up, born in the late 70s, growing up with 80s cartoons, 80s movies, and things of that nature, like Land Before Time, Brave Little Toaster, some of the classic animated movies of that time, even TV shows like Smurfs and Snorks and Fraggle Rock and stuff of that nature that I grew up on and loved. You don't see shows like that anymore. You don't see animation like that anymore. Even like you were talking about the art side of things when it comes to shadowing, and there are certain aspects of the way a character moves that you can tell just is not there, that used to be there growing up on the shows that we would watch. And going back and watching some of them as an adult now, and where I have a wife who's an artist, I do a podcast. It's very animation related and heavy, so I pay attention to things more than a lot of people would, and it's amazing to see, and kind of sad to see that some of that classic stuff just isn't there anymore.
I mean, it will be rediscovered, and then somebody will be proclaimed a tour genius, but it's not the mainstream thing.
And it's not just there. You had model makers on like Star Wars building models and all that stuff, and you had Ray Harryhausen, doing these little like move the skeleton a little bit at a time stuff, and then you got people like Rick Baker doing this incredible makeup effects. You don't need any of those people anymore because we're just going to use CGI, and it's just like they were hands-on, they were crafting stuff, but the computer's like, we can just do it quicker here, and it's like, but you can tell that you did it on a computer as opposed to, like Rick Baker in this thing that cracks me up to this day. My third favorite movie of all time, King Kong from 1976. Rick Baker was in the Kong getup, walking through these, knocking trees down and showing emotion with just his eyes and like making you feel for that ape. And at the end of the movie, it says special contributions from Rick Baker. I'm like, what? Special contributions? He was King Kong. He was the reason I cried, because he projected emotion just through his eyes and the way he tilted his head and moved his body. But it's so sad because, like I have a bunch of Starlog magazines from back in the day, and you'd look and you'd see model makers and you'd see makeup effects people, and you'd be like, wow, that's cool. I want to do that someday. And now someday is here and it's all gone. Like it's so sad how we like CGI not only replaced animation, it replaced special effects, it's modeling and makeup effects. It's like we can all do it in CGI. So yeah.
In the early 80s, I went up to Industrial Light and Magic to interview for a movie. Who knew if the movie would do well or not? It was called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so I'm at ILM, and I'm surrounded by all of the models from the movies. And there's a set, the snow set from
Hoth.
Yes.
Empire Strikes Back. Yep.
From Empire Strikes Back, and it was like, oh my God, that's it. And there's Millennium Falcons of every size all over the place, and it was just oh, I'm going to take a second and just really look at the construction. And it was just magic. And the idea that, oh, it's just CGI now, so that doesn't exist is very sad. It just was so incredible to see this was in the movie. This is part of the movie. This is what movie magic is.
Yeah. And, you had nothing and you built it with your hands. But like, yeah, now and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not bashing CGI. I feel bad for, the thousands and thousands of model makers, animators, special effects people who are now, were good at what they did. And they're like, yeah, I'm out of work because they use CGI now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you either adapt or you move on.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we went over the little hour here, but I thank you so much for, first of all, being my friend of 10 years. I'm going to be flying over your house in a few weeks.
Wow.
I flying from Boston to LAX, and then I'm getting on the Discovery Princess to go to the Mexican Riviera cruise with Bernie Kopel, Ted Lange, Fred Grandy, Lauren Tweez, and Jill Whelan, who are going to be on this Love Boat tribute cruise. So
sounds like a love boat. Yep.
Yeah.
I've done that love boat trip.
Yeah. So it'll be pretty
Titanic
fun.
Survivor, by the way.
What's that?
I did that love boat trip with the Titanic Survivor.
Oh, wow. That must have been cool. Now, since you're a big Titanic fan, which we didn't really get into, you met some Titanic people, but any word on this supposed exact replica of the Titanic that was supposed to launch 18 years ago and they're still trying to launch it? Do you know anything about that? Or
my understanding is that it's never, ever going to happen. A lot of press, and they're like, they keep showing, see, it's getting built. Yeah, those are the same pictures from 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So if it actually happens, what a surprise. And there's the landlocked version, and if there's a sea version, a seaworthy version of it, I think people would hate it if they got on it, because they want what big ships are now, and that the Titanic was not that.
Yeah, and what's funny is the old Love Boat held like 600 people or whatever, and Titanic was probably not much bigger than that. And now they're like 4,000 passengers or whatever. So yeah, to get a ship that's smaller than the ones now, they're like, oh, this only holds 25 people. Like, yeah, I don't know how that would really work, but
the idea of going on an ocean voyage is to get away from it all. And I don't want to get away from it all with 4,000 other people.
Yeah, I hear you there.
I want to get away from.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Thank you, and thank you, Doug, for tuning in and being part of this today. And
thank you for inviting me, and look forward to any time that you need me to come on and help out. I would love to do it. I love getting to meet people. Thank you, Darrell, for coming on and giving me the opportunity to chat with you. You're one of the unsung heroes behind the scenes that people need to know about but may not know.
And there will always be the need for people to tell stories in film. So if anybody watches this and goes, I'd like to do it, go get the training. Find a film school somewhere, writing, acting, improv, take all that stuff. You will use it all. And the people that you go to school with are the people that you will work with for the rest of your life. So keep that in mind. So my kind of career you can have.
Yes. You just won't be able to, be in Tron because it's already done. So.
Tron 3.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, but then it's like Tron 3, and then they're like, just kidding, and then they're like Tron 3 again, and then you're like, what? And then they're like, we were joking again.
Till somebody finds an angle where everyone goes, okay, now we're interested.
I think in the last one, and this is where they should have done something, but they should have had people dressed like Bruce and Jeff and Cindy in those costumes somewhere, and had somebody walk by them and go, who are those guys? And they say, they're just a bunch of old programs. It would have been a way to kind of pay homage, and it would have been funny because they would have been old programs. But I'm like, why didn't you take that opportunity? But, they didn't call me in to fix it, I guess, is the reason why.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you again soon. And have a really great rest of your day.
Well, thanks very much. It's good to see your face again. Enjoy flying over my house. And nice
I
to meet
will. Take care.
you. Okay.